Industrialization in Spain. This is the index we are going to follow. Industrialization has its origin in Britain, but later expanded to other countries. Spain was one of the countries that took a late industrialization. It was from the early 19th century when it experienced continued and sustained growth due to the introduction of innovations and improvements in economic activity. These innovations were the three that we can see in the image. From the 1830 to the 1850, the Industrial Revolution starts in Catalonia, and pre-institutional conditions are created. From 1855 to 1900, poor endowment of raw materials and energy products. Entrepreneurship was scarce. Little capital available for the creation of industries. Technological backwardness. Industrial policy was inadequate. The demand for industrial products was limited. From 1900 to 1936, industrial growth. The rise of coal mining. The incorporation of the progress of the Second Industrial Revolution. The increase in domestic investment. The impulse of public works. The industrial protectionism eliminated foreign competition. From 1936 to 1959, civil war and post-war. Industrial growth was interrupted. The war caused the destruction of industries, restrictions on imports of capital and goods. In the 60s, outreach. Moves from agriculture domination to the industry domination. Urbanization process and wages process. Public sector investment. Infrastructure building increase. Change in income distribution. Since 1975, integration with Europe. 3 successive sub-periods. 3 years of crisis and adjustment. The 10-year cycle post-crisis. Expansive cycle. 19th century industry. Mining major resource was coal. It had much to do with the invention of the railroad. Spain was more of an importer since coal was cheaper in Europe. Sites in Asturias, León, Ciudad Real, Córdoba. The exploitation of iron was mainly operated since 1870, when the steel caused an increased demand for Spanish iron. Sites Biscay, Santander, and Malaga. It had a great impact on the Spanish economy. Balance of payments achieved an equilibration and brought foreign capital, which improved the techniques. This is a map of different mining sites in Spain. Iron and steel. We can tell apart several steps. 1830. The first places were created in the provinces of Marbella, Seville, and Barcelona, but had little success because there was a lack of coke in these areas and the high cost of transport from the sites. 1860. The steel and iron industry moves from Marbella and Sevilla to Asturias, as it existed coal at that province, allowing the creation of a blast furnace. 1880. Began a large expansion in the Basque Country with technological advances and business concentrations. In this province, coal came from Asturias and United Kingdom. Textile. Since 1830, the cotton industry is modernized and begins to operate thanks to mechanization, the hiring of cheap labor, the triumph of the factory opposite the artisan workshop, the impulse of domestic demand, and the presence of a bourgeoisie enterprising. Between 1830 and 1850 began the expansion and modernization in Catalonia. However, in the 60s, due to an economic crisis, led to the end of the period of greatest growth. In 1870, we expand again thanks to our product sales to Puerto Rico and Cuba. When we lost those colonies, the production got stopped. There are also wool industries in Castilla-La Mancha and Castilla y León, and silk in Valencia, but these industries were of minor importance. Other industries. Metallurgical industry in the Basque Country, where ships and railroads were created. Chemical industry, the creation of color for use in the textile industry as well as manufacture of fertilizers, explosives, and electrical industry, food industry, flour, wine, or oliveries. 20th century industry. Until 1975, basic sectors: integrated steelmaking, refining, petrochemical, and shipbuildings were driven by the state in the Franco era through NYY, encouraging strategic sectors, requiring large investments and providing little return, so they were not active for private investment. The industries of goods grew in parallel with the rising standards of living of the population. After the hiatus of the war, production was increased at the time of development, which also increased the production of durable goods with higher value added. The industries of equipment had a smaller development, reflecting the Spanish technological backwardness. Its biggest growth was in the developmental time, thanks to the installation of multinationals. However, at this stage continued to be dominated by mature sectors, consuming large amounts of natural resources, unskilled work, and energy. The crisis of the mid-70s led to the loss of important industrial sectors in the Spanish economy. In just one decade, the share of industry in GDP fell to 35% and industrial employment dropped by nearly 1 million people, reaching 32% of the population. The crisis also helped to change the sectoral structure of industry. There was a significant retreat of traditional production sectors, basic industries, and some manufacturing such as textiles, while others, such as food, automotive, and chemicals, increased their importance. The process of industrial restructuring would mean the dismantling of much of the more obsolete heavy industries that had been built since the autarky in the early years of Franco on the NII concentration in certain industrial areas with a more sensitive and less diversified framework. The politics of conversions, therefore, were taken from the 1980s. To join the European Union, 1986, a second conversion was forced since 1991. Raw materials and energy sources. Energy sources: oil, electricity, renewable energies, natural gas, coal, nuclear energy. Conclusions. Between 1855 and 1975, there is a delay in the onset of industrialization. Growth in the first third of the 20th century. Stagnating 1936–1960. Development 1960–1975. Basic sectors: iron and steel, petrochemical, shipbuilding. Shortage of capital equipment. Crisis 1975–1985. Energy price hikes. Exhaustion of the technology cycle. Current era since 1985. Recovery by the impact of the Third Industrial Revolution, technology, production, and driving sectors. Dynamic sectors depend on external capital and technology.